Love story, emotional romance, river rescue, true love, heartbreaking relationship story. One summer I almost drowned, but a boy from a small village saved not only my life, but my heart too. This is the emotional love story of Joan and Kevin. A story about distance, pain, dreams, and a love strong enough to change two lives forever. I came to my grandmother Clara's village for summer vacation, never imagining that one river would completely change my future. That day I was drowning, and a quiet orphan boy named Kevin pulled me out of the water. What started as a simple thank you slowly became the greatest love of my life. He worked in the fields driving an old tractor, and every evening he looked at me like I was his entire world. And when life forced us apart, Kevin refused to give up. He spent sleepless nights learning programming, changed his whole future, and fought his way back to me just so he could hold me again. This is a story about real love, about the boy who refused to let me drown, and how we spent the rest of our lives saving each other.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
I almost died in the river and found the love of my life. I still remember the smell of that river. Warm water, wet grass, fresh hay somewhere far away in the fields, and the sun slowly touching my skin. That summer, I came to spend my vacation at my grandmother Clara's house in a small village where time itself seemed to stand still. After the noise of the city, that place felt like another world, quiet, warm, and alive. Grandma greeted me at the porch of her old house with tears in her eyes and hugged me tightly. "Joan, you've grown so much," she whispered, gently stroking my hair. At her feet spun Black, the old black dog I remembered from when he was just a puppy. He barked happily, wagged his tail, and nearly knocked me over with excitement. Those first days felt like a fairy tale. I woke up to birds singing, helped Grandma in the garden, ate warm cherry pies straight from the oven, and spent evenings sitting on the porch, staring at the endless stars above the village. And then came that day, the day that changed my life. It was unbearably hot outside. The air itself seemed to shimmer under the sun. I decided to go to the river to cool off and took Black with me. He happily ran beside me, sometimes darting ahead and looking back as if he was afraid I might disappear. The river was almost empty, only the sound of flowing water, crickets singing in the grass, and the warm summer breeze. I sat down on the shore, dipped my feet into the water and smiled. "It's so beautiful here, Black," I whispered softly. The dog lay beside me and rested his head on my lap. A few minutes later, I stepped into the water. It was cool and refreshing. I swam a little farther out, turned onto my back, and closed my eyes. At that moment, I felt completely happy. And then, a sharp pain. My leg suddenly tightened like it was trapped in iron chains. A cramp. A horrible, unbearable cramp. I jerked suddenly and swallowed water. "Help!" I tried to scream, but my voice drowned instantly. Panic consumed me in seconds. I tried to swim, but my leg wouldn't move. The water became heavy, dark, and I was sinking. I only remember Black barking wildly on the shore. Then everything slowly began to disappear. Through the ringing in my ears, I suddenly felt strong arms around me. Someone grabbed me. Warmth, air, light. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the shore, coughing up water. A young man was leaning over me. His hair was soaked, his chest rising heavily with every breath, and there was fear in his eyes, the kind of fear that looked like he thought he was too late. "Breathe, please breathe," he kept whispering softly. I coughed again, and he closed his eyes in relief. Black spun around beside us, whining nervously. "You saved me," I whispered weakly. The guy gave a nervous little smile. "Looks like I did." That was the first time I truly looked at him. Tall, suntanned, couple years older than me, wearing a simple t-shirt and old jeans. Nearby in the grass lay a fishing rod and a small bucket with fish inside. "I'm Kevin," he said. "I was fishing nearby. If it wasn't for this dog, I wouldn't have heard you." He gently patted Black, and the dog immediately licked his hand. I started trembling, not from the cold but from the realization that I could have died. Kevin noticed and silently took off his jacket, wrapping it around my shoulders. "You shouldn't be alone right now. I'll walk you home." On the way back, we barely spoke. I just kept secretly looking at him, at his hands rough, scratched, and strong, at his slightly sad eyes, at the way he carefully walked beside me, almost as if he was afraid I might fall again. When we reached Grandma's house, Clara rushed outside in panic. "Oh my God, Joan!" She hugged me tightly and then looked at Kevin. "He saved me," I said quietly. Grandma froze for a second, then suddenly smiled warmly. "Kevin, so it was you." There was something strange in her voice, as if she knew much more about him than I did. Kevin awkwardly lowered his eyes. Later that evening, Grandma told me he was an orphan. His parents had died many years ago, and he lived alone in a tiny house on the edge of the village. People said he was quiet and distant, but Grandma only sighed softly and said, "He has a very good heart, Joan. Life has just been cruel to him." That night, I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. I lay near the open window, listening to the crickets outside, thinking about only one thing: the boy who pulled me out of the dark water, his hands on my shoulders, the way his voice trembled as he begged me to breathe. And somehow, at that very moment, I realized this summer would become something special for me, that the river that day had taken away my old life and given me a meaning that would change my heart forever. 2 days had passed since Kevin saved me at the river, but I still woke up in the middle of the night remembering his eyes, the fear in them when he thought he was too late to save me. I couldn't just say thank you. It didn't feel like enough. So one morning I woke up before Grandma Clara and decided to bake an apple pie, the kind she taught me to make when I was little, with cinnamon, warm apples, and a golden crispy crust. The kitchen smelled like summer. I sliced apples while Black sat beside me, watching carefully as if he understood everything. "Do you think he'll like it?" I whispered to him softly. Black wagged his tail happily. When the pie was ready, I wrapped it in a towel and walked to Kevin's house. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like I wasn't just going to thank a boy, but to do something far more important. His little house stood at the edge of the village beside a field of sunflowers. An old wooden porch, a few flower pots, and a bicycle leaning near the fence. I knocked nervously. A second later, the door opened. Kevin froze when he saw me. He was wearing a light-colored t-shirt stained from work, and his hair was messy from the wind. "Joan." I held out the pie and smiled awkwardly. "This is for you." "Well, for saving me." He looked at the pie, then at me, and for the first time I saw him truly smile. "Then you'll have to come inside. I can't eat a pie like this alone." That was how our first evening together began. We sat in his tiny kitchen, drinking mint tea and eating warm apple pie. The summer wind whispered outside the window while Black slept near our feet. We talked for hours, about my life in the big city, about his childhood, about how he learned to fix everything in the house himself, about how lonely it sometimes felt living alone. And as I listened to him, I felt something warm and unfamiliar growing inside me, like my heart was quietly finding its way home. After that evening, we started seeing each other almost every day, and it became the best summer of my life. Sometimes I would meet him early in the morning, and we'd walk together through the fields. The sun would just be rising above the earth, the grass still wet with morning dew, and the air smelling like wheat and freedom. Kevin worked for a local farmer. He drove a huge green tractor across endless golden fields, and I could watch him for hours. There was something unbelievably beautiful about the way he worked. His strong hands gripping the wheel, the sunlight on his tanned skin, the wind moving through his hair. Sometimes he would notice me standing near the road and smile at me in a way that stole my breath away. And in the evenings, we sat by the river together. I rested my head on his shoulder while he silently intertwined his fingers with mine. "I never thought I could love someone this much," he told me quietly one evening. I looked up at him and realized he meant every word. My heart nearly shattered from love right then. I fell in love with him slowly, and then suddenly realized I couldn't imagine my life without him anymore. But summer can't last forever, and the day I had to leave came far too quickly. The sky was gray that morning. Even the wind felt sad. My suitcase stood near Grandma's front door while I fought back tears. Kevin silently carried my bags to the car. He barely looked at me, and somehow that hurt the most. "Kevin," I whispered, "please say something." He clenched his jaw tightly. "What am I supposed to say, Joan? That everything's gonna be okay? Because it's not." His voice sounded angry, but I knew the anger was hiding pain. "I'll come back. I promise," I said through tears. "I love you so much." He suddenly turned away and ran a hand through his hair. "I hate this," he said hoarsely. "I hate that you have to leave. I hate that city, your school, all these damn circumstances." I could see his hands trembling. "Kevin, you have no idea what it feels like," he whispered, "to wake up knowing you won't be here anymore." Tears rolled down my cheeks. I walked up to him and held him as tightly as I could, like somehow my arms could keep our summer from ending, our love, our happiness. He wrapped his arms around me and suddenly broke down quietly against my hair. "Don't go," he whispered. "Please." That shattered me completely, but the car was already waiting. I kissed him one last time, long, painful, with tears trembling on our lips. Then I got into the car. As we drove away, I looked through the back window and saw Kevin standing alone in the middle of the road. The wind moved through the wheat fields around him, and my heart stayed there, in that tiny village, by the river, with the boy I loved more than anything in the world. After that painful goodbye, I thought my heart would never feel whole again. The city welcomed me back with the noise of traffic, the cold walls of the university, and people constantly rushing somewhere. Everyone around me kept laughing, making plans, living their lives, while every night I fell asleep thinking about the little village, the river, and the boy I had left behind. I missed him so much it physically hurt. His voice, the warmth of his hands, the way he looked at me like I was the most important person in the world. We talked on the phone every single day. Sometimes we stayed on the call for hours without speaking, simply listening to each other breathe. "I miss you," Kevin would whisper softly, and tears would instantly fill my eyes. One evening, he suddenly said, "I don't want to spend my whole life looking at you through a phone screen, Joan. Kevin, if you can't stay in the village with me, then I'll change my life and come be with you." At the time, I didn't realize how serious he was. A few days later, he bought an old used computer from someone in a neighboring village. The screen flickered a little, the keyboard was worn out, but Kevin looked at it like it was his ticket to a new life. And then he started learning, relentlessly, stubbornly, every single night. He bought programming books, signed up for online courses, and spent nearly all of his free time studying. During the day, he worked for the farmer driving tractors through the fields. At night, he sat in front of that old monitor learning how to code. Sometimes I'd call him and hear the sound of exhausted typing in the background. "You need sleep," I would tell him. "First, I need to become someone worthy of you," he'd answer quietly. Those words shattered my heart. "Kevin, I don't need money or status. I just love you." He would smile softly. "And I want to give you a future." I could see him changing. There was purpose in his eyes now, hope, belief, and every single day I fell even more in love with him. 6 months passed. One cold autumn evening, Kevin called me. His voice was trembling. "Joan, what happened?" He went silent for a second, then suddenly laughed quietly. "I got the job." I covered my mouth with my hand and burst into tears. "Kevin, a small IT company in your city, just as an assistant for now. The salary's not much, but it's a start." I was crying and laughing at the same time. I wanted to scream from happiness. 2 weeks later, he arrived. I still remember that day perfectly. The gray train station, cold autumn rain, people dragging suitcases everywhere. And then suddenly, in the middle of the crowd, I saw him, wearing a dark jacket, carrying a backpack over one shoulder, his eyes slightly tired. "Kevin, my Kevin." I ran to him almost instantly. He barely had time to put his bag down before I threw my arms around him, holding him so tightly like I was afraid he'd disappear again. "You're here," I whispered through tears. He held me against his chest and buried his face in my hair. I told you, I'd find my way back to you. That evening, we walked through the city for hours holding hands. Kevin rented a tiny room in an old dormitory near his office. It was cramped, a narrow bed, an old desk, a small window, and a cheap electric kettle. But to me, it felt like the warmest place in the world, because he was there. I came to see him almost every day. Sometimes we ate cheap instant noodles and laughed while sitting on the floor. Sometimes I fell asleep on his shoulder while he worked on his laptop. Sometimes he just looked at me like he still couldn't believe we were finally together. One evening, I asked him softly, "Do you regret changing your whole life for me?" Kevin gently touched my face. "No, Joan. I only truly started living the moment I fell in love with you. And in that moment, I realized something. Real love isn't beautiful words. It's when someone is willing to go through fear, exhaustion, poverty, and uncertainty, just to wake up beside you one day." I was incredibly nervous the day Kevin was supposed to meet my parents. My mom, Amanda, had been rushing around the kitchen all morning making dinner, while my dad, Paul, pretended to read the newspaper even though I could clearly see he was nervous too. "Joan, is he really a good guy?" Mom asked quietly. I smiled softly. "Mom, he once pulled me out of a river when I was drowning. I'd say that's a pretty good start." When Kevin knocked on the door, my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. He stood there wearing a dark button-up shirt, looking slightly nervous, holding flowers for my mom. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Harris." I noticed the way my father carefully studied him at first. But an hour later, they were already sitting together at the kitchen table laughing. Kevin told stories about the village, about tractors, about nearly flipping one over on his first day working for the farmer. And Mom laughed so genuinely it felt like she had known him forever. Then suddenly, Dad looked at him seriously and said, "Thank you." Kevin looked confused. "For what?" Dad glanced at me. "For not letting our daughter disappear under that water one day." The kitchen fell silent. Kevin only smiled awkwardly. I didn't even think about it back then. I just couldn't do nothing. That was the moment my parents truly loved him. Not because of money, not because of his future career, but because of his heart, because of the way he loved me. The years passed. Quickly, beautifully, honestly. I graduated from college and became an elementary school teacher. I loved children, their tiny hands, their sincere hugs, and the way they still looked at the world without cruelty. Kevin. Sometimes I looked at him and still couldn't believe how far he had come. That boy from the small village who once sat by the river with a fishing rod was now leading a department at an IT company. The company was growing, his salary became good, but he never changed as a person. He still held me every night before bed, still kissed my forehead when I fell asleep, still looked at me like I was something miraculous. 3 years later, we bought our first house together. I still remember that day. Bright empty rooms, large windows, the smell of fresh paint in the air. We sat on the floor surrounded by moving boxes, eating pizza from paper plates. "There aren't even curtains yet," I laughed. Kevin smiled and wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "But the most important thing is already here." "What?" He kissed my temples softly. "You." And at that moment, it truly felt like love had moved into those walls before we did. Real love, warm love, living love. We often visited Grandma Clara back in the village. Black had become old by then, walking slowly around the yard, but he still got just as excited every time he saw us. And one summer evening, Kevin asked me to go to the river with him. That same river. The sun was slowly setting behind the fields. The water glowed gold under the evening light while the warm wind moved through the grass around us. I stood near the shore smiling, remembering the day we first met. And then, Kevin suddenly got down on one knee. My breath caught instantly. He pulled out a small ring box, his eyes shining with nervous emotion. "Joan," he said quietly, "that day at the river, I didn't just save you." His voice trembled. "I saved myself, and my future too." Tears immediately filled my eyes. "Before I met you, I was only surviving. Then you became my home, my dream, my reason not to give up." He opened the box with the ring inside. "Will you marry me?" I was already crying and laughing at the same time. Yes. God, Kevin, yes. He stood up and held me so gently, like he was afraid of breaking the moment itself. And there by the river, pressed against the man I loved with my whole heart, I realized how strange and beautiful life can be. Sometimes you think everything is ending, that you're drowning, that fear, pain, or distance are stronger than love. But then life sends you someone who reaches through the dark water and grabs your hand, and never lets you go again. I often think about that day at the river, about Black barking desperately on the shore, about the boy with the fishing rod, about the cramp that terrified me. Once I thought it was the worst day of my life. Now I understand. It was the day my future began. Sometimes love doesn't arrive loudly, not perfectly, not like in the movies. Sometimes it arrives as a tired boy with kind eyes who simply refuses to let you drown. And from that moment on, you spend the rest of your lives saving each other.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new stories. And also write in the comments how you liked this story on a scale of 1 to 5. Watch the following video and enjoy watching.